Ethan Mitchell straightened his tie for the third time, his palms slightly damp as he waited in the cozy corner booth of Morning Brew Cafe. The aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filled the air, mixing with the gentle hum of conversations and clinking ceramic mugs. Today could change everything, mister. Harrison's construction empire needed legal representation for their biggest expansion yet, and Ethan's small firm desperately needed this breakthrough client. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and Ethan recognized the distinguished gentleman immediately. Mr. Harrison, silver-haired and impeccably dressed, surveyed the room with sharp eyes before spotting Ethan. His handshake was firm, his smile warm but assessing. "Ethan, my boy, good to finally meet in person," Mr. Harrison said, settling into the booth. "I've heard impressive things about your work on the Riverside development case." "Thank you, sir. I'm honored you're considering our firm," Ethan replied, trying to project confidence while his heart hammered against his ribs. Mr. Harrison ordered black coffee and leaned back, studying Ethan with the intensity of someone who'd built his fortune on reading people. "You know, Ethan, I've been burned by lawyers before, smooth talkers who disappear when things get complicated. I believe in working with family men, people with roots, responsibilities, something to lose if they don't deliver." Ethan nodded, unsure where this was heading. "So tell me about your family situation. Married? Engaged? Children?" The question hit Ethan like a physical blow. At 28, he'd been so focused on building his career that serious relationships had taken a back seat. His last girlfriend, Jessica, had left 6 months ago, frustrated by his endless work hours and canceled dates. I'm engaged." The words tumbled out before Ethan could stop them. Panic made him reckless. "Very committed to family values, sir." Mr. Harrison's stern expression softened immediately. "Wonderful. Knew I had a good feeling about you. When's the wedding?" "We're still planning," Ethan managed, his throat dry. "I insist on meeting her. How about dinner tomorrow night? Bring your fiancée to the Golden Fork. My wife would love to meet her. We believe in getting to know the people we do business with on a personal level." Ethan felt the walls closing. In one lie had created an impossible situation. He glanced around the cafe desperately, his eyes landing on the waitress refilling coffee at the next table. She was petite with warm brown eyes and an easy smile, her dark hair pulled back in, a practical ponytail. She moved with quiet efficiency, treating each customer with genuine kindness. Actually, Ethan heard himself saying, "She works here." "Lily?" he called out, his voice cracking slightly. The waitress looked up, surprised. "Yes." "Could you come here for a moment? I'd like you to meet someone." Lily approached cautiously, her green apron slightly stained from the busy morning rush. She had delicate features and an open expression that made her immediately likable. "Mr. Harrison, I'd like you to meet Lily, my fiancée." Lily's eyes widened. In shock, her mouth opening slightly, Ethan held his breath, waiting for her to expose his desperate lie. Instead, something flickered in her expression, amusement, perhaps mischief. "Oh, hello, Mr. Harrison," she said smoothly, extending her hand. "Ethan's told me so much about this meeting. I'm so proud of him." Harrison beamed, shaking Lily's hand enthusiastically. "The pleasure is mine, dear. Ethan's a lucky man." "You? Both must join us for dinner tomorrow night at 7, the Golden Fork." "We'd be delighted," Lily replied without missing a beat. After Mr. Harrison left, Ethan sat in stunned silence. Lily slipped into the booth across from him, her brown eyes sparkling with an emotion he couldn't quite read. "So," she said quietly, "fake fiancé? Huh, this should be interesting." Ethan paced outside the Golden Fork restaurant, checking his watch for the 5th time. Lily was 10 minutes late, and with each passing moment, his carefully constructed lie felt more fragile. The upscale restaurant's warm lighting spilled onto the sidewalk, where well-dressed couples strolled past, making Ethan feel increasingly out of place in his best suit. "Sorry I'm late," Lily's voice came from behind him. Ethan turned and nearly forgot to breathe. Gone was the cafe uniform and ponytail. Lily wore a simple black dress that highlighted her graceful figure, her hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She carried herself differently, Confident? Elegant? You look incredible, Ethan stammered. Tom, my manager, let me borrow his sister's dress. Figured I shouldn't embarrass your big client, she said with a slight smile that made Ethan's chest tighten unexpectedly. Inside the Golden Fork, Mr. Harrison and his wife Margaret were already seated. Margaret Harrison was a refined woman in her 60s, with kind eyes and an air of old money sophistication. She rose gracefully as they approached. Lily, darling. How lovely to meet you, Margaret exclaimed, embracing Lily warmly. Harrison's told me wonderful things. As they settled into dinner, Ethan braced himself for disaster. But Lily was remarkable. She answered questions about their relationship with creative details that somehow felt believable. When Margaret asked about their engagement, Lily smiled and said, Ethan proposed right in the cafe where we met. Very romantic, very impractical, but heartfelt. How did you two meet? Margaret inquired, cutting her salmon delicately. I spilled coffee on his laptop, Lily said without missing a beat. He was so patient about it, helped me clean up the mess. Most people would have been furious, but Ethan just smiled and said, accidents happen. That's when I knew he was special. Ethan stared at her, amazed by how naturally the story flowed. It wasn't true, but it felt like it could have been. What do you do besides the cafe, dear? Margaret asked. For the first time, Lily hesitated. I've singled between things right now. The cafe pays the bills while I figure out my next step. Lily's incredibly talented, Ethan found himself saying, she has dreams of opening her own place someday. Maybe a bookstore-cafe combination. Lily looked at him sharply, surprised he'd remembered something she'd mentioned offhandedly during their brief planning session. Mr. Harrison leaned forward. Entrepreneurial spirit. I like that. Reminds me of Margaret when she was young. She started with nothing and built a successful interior design business. The evening progressed smoothly. Lily charmed both Harrisons with her genuine warmth and quick wit. When Margaret excused herself to the restroom, she gestured for Lily to join her, leaving the men alone. You've got a gem there, Ethan, Mr. Harrison said, raising his wine glass. Genuine, unpretentious, supportive. That's the foundation of a good marriage. She's pretty amazing, Ethan agreed, realizing he meant it. Meanwhile, in the ladies' room, Margaret was studying Lily with maternal interest. You know, dear, I've been married 43 years. I can usually tell when a couple is truly in love. Lily's heart skipped. Double quotes? The way you look at Ethan, the way he watches you when you're not paying attention, that's the real thing. You're both lucky to have found each other so young. When they returned to the table, the contracts were already being discussed. Mr. Harrison was impressed with Ethan's preparation and professionalism. But it was clear that Lily's presence had sealed the deal. Walking back to Ethan's car, Lily was quiet. Finally, she spoke. Why did you say that about the bookstore cafe? You mentioned it when I was getting coffee last week. You said it was a silly dream. You were listening. Apparently, they drove in comfortable silence until Ethan pulled up outside Lily's modest apartment building. She didn't move to get out immediately. Ethan, she said softly, this was fun, but you realize this can't be a one-time thing, right? He's going to expect to see me again. Ethan nodded, having come to the same realization. I know it's a lot to ask. I didn't say no, Lily interrupted. Just ... Let's set some ground rules. And maybe next time, tell me a bit more about yourself. If I'm going to be your fake fiancé, I should probably know your favorite color. Blue, Ethan said automatically. Mine's green. See? We're learning already. Lily headed toward her building. She turned back. Oh, and Ethan, time you. Panic and need a fake fiancé? Maybe give a girl some warning. Watching her walk away, Ethan realized the most dangerous part of this charade wasn't getting caught in the light, was how easy it had been to pretend, and how much he was already looking forward to doing it again, 2 weeks into their arrangement. Ethan and Lily had developed an odd rhythm. They met twice weekly at morning brew to sync their stories, as Lily called it. Ethan found himself looking forward to these sessions more than he cared to admit. Lily had a way of making even the most mundane details interesting, and her laugh had become his favorite sound. Your mother called the cafe yesterday, Lily announced. Sliding into their usual booth with 2 coffee cups, Ethan nearly choked on his drink. "What? Helen Mitchell?" Lovely voice. "She wants to meet her future daughter-in-law. Apparently you've been mentioning me quite a bit during your weekly calls." Ethan ran his hands through his hair, a habit Lily had noticed he had when stressed. "I didn't know what else to say when she kept asking about my dating life. I may have ... elaborated." "Well, you're in luck. I accepted her dinner invitation for Saturday. 7 o'clock at your childhood home." Lily's brown eyes sparkled with mischief. "I'm excited to see your baby pictures." Saturday evening found them standing on the porch of Ethan's childhood home in the suburbs. The house was warm and inviting, the well-maintained garden, and the kind of front door that suggested countless family dinners and holiday gatherings. Helen Mitchell was an energetic woman in her 50s with Ethan's same dark hair and intelligent eyes. She embraced Lily immediately, as if welcoming a long-lost daughter. "Finally. I was beginning to think Ethan was hiding you," Helen laughed, leading them into a cozy living room filled with family photos and the aroma of home-cooked lasagna dinner. It was a minefield of family stories and childhood memories. Helen showed Lily photo albums while Ethan suffered through embarrassing tales of his awkward teenage years. But Lily handled it all with grace, asking thoughtful questions and sharing carefully crafted stories about her own family. "Tell me about your parents, dear," Helen asked, as they cleared the dishes. Lily's smile faltered slightly. "My mom passed away when I was 16. Cancer. It's just me and my sister Rose now." The room fell silent. Ethan watched Lily's face, seeing a vulnerability he'd never noticed before. "I'm so sorry," Helen said softly, reaching for Lily's hand. "That must have been incredibly difficult. Rose is only 2 years older, but she took care of everything. She's the strong one, works as a nurse, puts everyone else first. I'm the dreamer who can't seem to get her life together." "Dreams aren't weaknesses, Lily," Helen said firmly. "And sometimes the dreamers end up changing the world." Later, as they said goodbye, Helen pulled Ethan aside. "I like her, honey. She's real, not like those other girls you brought home who seemed more interested in your potential than in you." Driving Lily home, Ethan was unusually quiet. Finally, Lily spoke. "Your mom is wonderful. You're lucky to have someone who cares about you like that. You didn't have to share about your mother." "I could have prepared a cover story," Lily shrugged. "Some things are too important to lie about. Besides, it felt good to talk about her with someone who cared." They sat in the car outside Lily's building, neither moving to leave. The streetlights cast a warm glow through the windshield, creating an intimate atmosphere. "Lily," Ethan said quietly, "when this is all over, when the Harrison deal is done, what happens then?" "We go back to our regular lives, I suppose. You get successful, I figure out what I want to do with mine, and if I said I didn't want it to end." Lily turned to look at him, her brown eyes serious. "Then I'd say you need to be very careful about confusing gratitude with something else." But even as she said it, Lily felt her own resolve weakening. Somewhere between the family dinner and the quiet car conversations, this had stopped feeling like a game. Ethan's kindness wasn't in a cash she'd seen him tip generously at the cafe, even before their arrangement. Watched him help an elderly customer with her groceries. Noticed how he always asked Tom about his night classes. The next morning, Lily was serving breakfast when her sister Rose appeared at the cafe, still in her hospital scrubs from a night shift. "So who's the guy?" Rose asked without preamble, sliding into a booth. "What guy?" Lily replied, though her cheeks flushed. "The one who's got you humming while you work and checking your phone every 5 minutes. Spill." Lily sat across from her sister, knowing she couldn't lie to Rose. They'd been through too much together, so she told her everything: the panic, the lie, the dinners, the growing feelings she was trying to ignore. Rose listened without judgment, then shook her head. "Lily, you're playing with fire. What happens when he doesn't need you anymore?" "It's not real, Rose. We both know that." "Does he?" "Yes. Because from where I'm sitting, this sounds like 2 people who are falling for each other, but are too scared to admit it." As Rose left for home, her words echoed in Lily's mind. That evening, Ethan arrived for their usual planning session. But instead of discussing upcoming events, they found themselves talking about everything else's law school dreams. Her abandoned college plans, their fears about the future. "Why did you stop college?" Ethan asked. "Money. After Mom died, Rose was working double shifts to keep us afloat. I couldn't justify the expense when I didn't even know what I wanted to study." "What would you study now?" Liddy smiled sadly. "Literature, maybe, or business. Something that would help me open that bookstore cafe you mentioned to your mother. You could go back. It's never too late." Spoken like someone who's never had to choose between textbooks and rent. Ethan fell quiet, realizing how different their worlds really were. But instead of creating distance, it made him admire her resilience. Even more, Lily had faced challenges he'd never imagined, yet she remained optimistic and kind. As the evening ended, they both felt the shift. This was no longer just about a business deal or a convenient lie. Somewhere in the space between pretense and reality, they'd begun to care for each other in ways that made the eventual end of their arrangement feel less like relief and more like loss. The Pemberton Charity Gala was the kind of event Ethan had always attended alone, networking efficiently before leaving early. But tonight, walking into the grand ballroom with Lily on his arm, he saw it differently. The crystal chandeliers reflected in her eyes. Her genuine excitement at the elegant surroundings made him feel like he was experiencing it all for the first time. Lily wore a burgundy dress that Rose had found at a consignment shop, simple but stunning. She moved through the crowd with natural grace, making conversation with guests who assumed she belonged in their world. Watching her, Ethan felt a pride that had nothing to do with their arrangement and everything to do with who she was. Ethan. James Worthington, Ethan's business partner, appeared with his wife. "You must be the famous Lily. We've heard so much about you." As they chatted, Ethan noticed Lily's slight tension. She was performing again, being the person she thought Ethan needed her to be. When James mentioned expensive vacations and luxury purchases, Lily smiled politely but said little. During dinner, Mr. Harrison made a point of introducing them to other potential clients. "Ethan here is representing our expansion project. Brilliant legal mind, and lucky enough to have found Lily. They're planning a wedding soon." "When's the big day?" asked Mrs. Pemberton. The hostess, Ethan, and Lily exchanged glances. They'd never discussed this detail. "We're still deciding between spring and fall," Lily said smoothly. "Ethan wants spring, but I'm leaning toward an autumn ceremony." "Autumn is lovely," Mrs. Pemberton agreed. "So romantic with the changing leaves." Later, during the dancing portion of the evening, Ethan held Lily close as they swayed to a slow song. She fit perfectly against him, her head just reaching his shoulder. "You're getting good at this," Ethan murmured. The spring versus fall detail was brilliant. "I prefer autumn," Lily said quietly. "If it were real, that is." Something in her tone made Ethan pull back to look at her face. "Lily, we should go," she interrupted. I have an early shift tomorrow." The drive back to Lily's apartment was tense with unspoken words. When Ethan walked her to the door, Lily turned to face him. "Ethan, what are we doing?" "What do you mean? Tonight?" When Mrs. Pemberton was talking about weddings, for a moment, I forgot it wasn't real. That scares me. Ethan stepped closer. "Would it be so terrible if it wasn't just pretend?" "Yes," Lily said, but her voice lacked conviction. "'Cause you don't really know me. You know Cafe Lily, fake fiancé Lily. You don't know the girl who dropped out of college, who's afraid she'll never amount to anything, who serves coffee and dreams about a life she'll probably never have. Then let me know her." Before Lily could respond, Ethan kissed her. It was soft, tentative, nothing like the brief performances they'd shared in public. This was real, and it terrified them both. Lily pulled away, her eyes glistening. "This is exactly what I was afraid would happen." She disappeared inside, leaving Ethan standing alone on the doorstep, his heart pounding with the realization that he was in love with a woman who thought she was just playing a role. The next morning at Morning Brew, Lily was notably absent. Tom, the manager, explained she'd called in sick. Ethan waited, hoping she'd appear, but she didn't. For 3 days, Lily avoided the cafe during Ethan's usual visits. When he finally caught her during her shift, She was politely distant, treating him like any other customer. "Lily, we need to talk. There's nothing to discuss. The Harrison deal is almost finalized, right? Our arrangement is nearly over. Forget the arrangement." "I need to tell you, coffee's getting cold," Lily interrupted, walking away to serve other customers. Meanwhile, Rose was at her wit's end. Lily had been miserable for days, claiming she had a cold, but clearly suffering from something much more complicated. "Just talk to him," Rose pleaded over breakfast in their small apartment. "And say what? That I'm falling for someone who hired me to pretend to be his fiancée. That every moment we spend together makes it harder to remember it's not real? Maybe it doesn't have to be pretend anymore." "Rose, look around." Lily gestured at their modest apartment, her cafe uniform hanging on the back of a chair. "Look at his life. We're from different worlds. So were Mom and Dad, and they had 20 good years together." Lily had almost forgotten their father had been a college professor, their mother a waitress when they met. But that felt different, simpler somehow. That evening, Ethan appeared at the cafe near closing time. The place was empty except for Lily, who was wiping down tables with determined efficiency. "We can't keep avoiding each other," Ethan said. "I'm not avoiding anything. I'm just remembering what this was supposed to be. What if I don't want it to be that anymore?" Lily stopped cleaning, her back still to him. "Then you're forgetting why you needed me in the first place. The Harrison deal, remember? Your career? I care more about you than any deal." "You care about the idea of me," Lily corrected, finally turning around. "The girl who played along with your lie, who didn't embarrass you in front of your clients. But Ethan, I'm nobody special. I'm just a waitress who helped you out of a jam." "Wrong, am I? When this is over, you'll go back to your successful lawyer life, and I'll still be here, serving coffee and wondering what might have been if I'd been brave enough to want more." Ethan crossed the room, stopping just in front of her. "Then, be brave enough now. Stop running from this." "Out." "I'm not running. I'm being realistic. You're being scared." The truth of his words hung between them. Lily was scared of wanting something she might not be able to keep. Scared of not being enough for someone like Ethan. Scared of the inevitable heartbreak when their worlds pulled them apart. But looking into Ethan's eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, Lily realized he was just as scared as she was. They were both standing at the edge of something that could change everything, and neither knew if they were brave enough to jump. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Lily was restocking napkin dispensers at Morning Brew. Ethan's voice was strained, barely controlled. "Harrison wants to have lunch. Today, he's bringing Margaret and their daughter who's visiting from New York. He specifically asked for you to be there." Lily's heart sank. They hadn't spoken properly since their confrontation 3 days ago, maintaining only the most basic coordination for their final performance. "Ethan, I don't think, please. One last time, and then it's over, I promise." 2 hours later, Lily sat across from the Harrison family at an elegant restaurant downtown, her smile feeling like plastic. Margaret Harrison was animated, discussing wedding plans with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely cared. "We must talk about the engagement party," Margaret said, pulling out her phone. "Harrison's business associates are expecting to celebrate with you both. How about next month?" Lily felt the web of lies tightening around them. Beside her, Ethan had gone pale. Their fake relationship had grown beyond their control, creating expectations and connections they'd never anticipated. "That's very generous," Lily managed. "Nonsense. You'll be family soon. Harrison's already talking about making Ethan a junior partner once this expansion is complete. Isn't that wonderful?" Ethan's coffee cup rattled against the saucer as he set it down. "Too hard." "Mr. Harrison, sir? There's something I need to." His phone buzzed with an urgent text. James, his business partner, needed him immediately for an emergency with another client. Ethan looked torn between his professional obligation and the conversation that needed to happen. "Go," Lily said quietly. "I'll handle lunch." After Ethan left reluctantly, Lily found herself alone with the Harrison family, feeling like an actor who'd forgotten her lines. Margaret's daughter, Claire, was a successful marketing executive who peppered Lily with questions about her background and interests. "Mom says you work at a cafe, but what are your real ambitions?" Claire asked, with the casual condescension of someone who'd never doubted her own trajectory. Lily thought about lying, creating some impressive story that would fit their expectations. Instead, she found herself telling the truth. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "I've been so focused on getting by that I haven't had the luxury of big dreams. But lately I've been thinking about going back to school, maybe studying literature or business." Margaret's expression softened. "That takes courage, dear. Starting over isn't easy." "Ethan believes I can do it," Lily said, then realized the truth in her words. He did believe in her, had believed in her from the first night when he'd mentioned her bookstore cafe dream to Mr. Harrison that evening. Lily walked to Ethan's apartment, her stomach churning with nervous energy. She found him on his balcony, still in his work clothes, but with his tie loosened, staring out at the city lights. "How did lunch go?" he asked, without turning around. "I told them the truth. Not about us, but about me." "About not knowing what I want to do with my life." Ethan finally looked at her, and Margaret said it takes courage to start over. They stood in silence for a moment before Lily continued. "Ethan, we can't keep doing this. It's gotten too complicated. Too many people are invested now." "I know. The engagement party, the junior partnership, it's all built on a lie." "I know," Ethan repeated, his voice heavy. "So what do we do?" Ethan turned to face her fully. "I tell Harrison the truth tomorrow. All of it." Lily felt her heart break a little. "In your career. The deal?" "Some things are more important than deals." "Like what?" Ethan stepped closer, his eyes intense. "Like not building my life on lies. Like being honest about what I want, even if it scares me." "And what do you want?" "You. Not fake fiancé you. Not pretend you. The real youth, the one who's brave enough to start over, who makes me laugh, who made me realize that success doesn't mean anything if you don't have someone to share it with." Lily felt tears threatening. "Ethan, I love you, Lily. Not the role you've been playing, but you. The girl who spilled imaginary coffee on my laptop in a story that felt more real than half my actual memories." "This is crazy," Lily whispered, but she didn't step away. "Then let's be crazy together." The next morning, Ethan sat in Harrison's office, his prepared speech dissolving in his throat as he looked at the man who'd become more than a client, almost a mentor. "Sir, there's something I need to tell you about Lily and me." Harrison looked up from his paperwork, smiling. "Let me guess you've set a wedding date. Margaret will be thrilled." "No, sir. We're not really engaged." The words hung in the air like a confession at church. Harrison's smile faded slowly, replaced by confusion, then something harder. "Explain." Ethan told him everything. The panic, the lie, Lily's kindness in playing along, how it had spiraled beyond their control. He left out only one thing, that his feelings had become real. When he finished, Harrison was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. "You lied to me, to my family. You welcomed that girl into our home." "Yes, sir. And now you're telling me?" "The truth because—" Ethan met his eyes. "Because I want to build something real with Lily, and I can't do that on a foundation of lies. And because you deserve better than a lawyer who would deceive you, regardless of the circumstances." Harrison stood and walked to his window, looking out at the construction site that would become his legacy project. "You know, Ethan, in 40 years of business, I've been lied to more times than I can count. But no one's ever come back to confess. Voluntarily. Especially when it would cost them everything. I understand if you want to terminate our contract." "What I want," Harrison said slowly, "is to meet this Lily again. It's the real one this time. If she means enough to you to risk your career, I'd like to know why." That afternoon, Lily received a text from Ethan. "Harrison wants to meet you. The real you. Are you brave enough?" Lily stared at the message for a long time. Then she looked around the cafe at Tom struggling with the afternoon rush, at the regular customers who had become like family, at the life she'd built from necessity rather than choice. Rose found her there an hour later, still staring at her phone. "Whatever it is, Just remember, Mom always said the biggest regret isn't the chances you take, it's the chances you don't. That evening, Lily walked into Harrison's office, wearing her cafe uniform, her hair in its familiar ponytail. No pretense, no borrowed dresses, just herself. Harrison studied her for a moment, then smiled. There you are. The real Lily. I'm sorry for the deception, Mr. Harrison. Ethan panicked, and I didn't want to embarrass him. And now, Lily looked at Ethan, who was watching her with an expression of hope and terror. Now I think we're both tired of pretending to be people we're not. Harrison leaned back in his chair. Ethan told me you want to go back to school, study literature or business. Maybe, someday, when I can afford it. What if I told you that honesty in business is so rare these days that I'd consider sponsoring your education in exchange for a promise? Lily blinked. What kind of promise? That if Ethan here is smart enough to marry you for real, you'll both remember where you came from. Stay honest. Build something genuine. Lily felt Ethan's hand find hers, warm and steady. Mr. Harrison, are you offering Ethan the job? I'm offering him a partnership with someone who values truth over convenience. The question is, can he convince you to take a chance on him? Lily looked at Ethan, really looked at him. Not the successful lawyer or the client's ideal family man, but the person who had panicked in a cafe and somehow found his way to her. The man who was willing to give up everything for honesty? You know, she said softly, I never did spill coffee on your laptop. We could fix that, Ethan replied, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Start our story over. Do it right this time. With the truth. With the truth.